Hi Year 9 and welcome to the first lesson of your last PSHE topic for the year, which is going to be called Managing Change. And this is going to include a lot of different things that will help you to think about the year that you've had and the couple of years that you've had in Key Stage 3, and most importantly is going to start to prepare you for what life is going to be like in Year 10. So today's lesson is all about promoting positive well-being. So how do we actually talk about how we feel, whether that's normal, and in the next few lessons we're going to talk about what we should be doing about it. It's a really important thing to be talking about, especially at the current time when we're kind of cut off from some of the people that we might ordinarily talk to about these sorts of things, that we use this time to look after yourself basically. So the first thing I would like you to do is to, on just a scrap piece of paper, you're not going to need to keep hold of this after today's lesson, but I'd like you to, in no more than 5 minutes, create an A to Z list of things that can affect your mental health or your emotional well-being, how you feel at the moment basically. And they can be things that affect it positively, things that you can do to make yourself happier or more contented, or they can be things that can negatively affect you. So there's a few examples there. So pause this video, give yourself 5 minutes, come up with that A to Z list, and then click play again. So that was just a little starter to get you thinking about all of the different things that in normal times or in these kind of exceptional circumstances might affect your well-being, your emotions, and the way that you deal with events that might be happening. But today we're going to be focusing on how we can promote emotional well-being. So basically making sure that you are okay and that when things happen in your life, which they're going to happen, you have ways of dealing with them. And over the next couple of lessons, we're also going to be starting to think about how we can become more resilient. So when events do happen in life, how we can change the way that we think, the way that we talk to ourselves, to see them as not such a negative thing. So here we've got just a really simple kind of emotion chart, and a lot of you, we will have done one of these before in our PSHE lessons. So what we've got here is just a typical day from 8 in the morning till 10 at night for Kaz. How might Kaz be feeling across the day? If you had to rate yourself on how happy you were versus the time of the day, it wouldn't be exactly the same all the way across the day. You might be bored for a lot of the day at the moment, but you're going to have slight fluctuations where you feel a little bit happier, a bit more energized, or maybe a bit less kind of excited and things like that. So this is just for a typical teenager, 13, 14 years old. And you can see that they've got some fluctuations across the day where at times they are happier or more contented and times when they're definitely not. So what I'd like you to do is pause this video, and again, 5 minutes is all you need to spend on this. What sorts of things could have happened to make Kaz feel like this? So what sorts of things could have happened at kind of 8:30, about 2 and about 6 that mean that Kaz is feeling pretty good at that time, versus the things that happen around 11 and about 3:30 that mean that Kaz isn't feeling particularly great. So obviously it could be a whole range of different things. So what I've got popping up in a second is some suggestions. See if you can maybe map these things happening at which times of the day and how that's going to make this person feel. So pause the video, see if you can work out which events might have happened at which points of the day and what impact that's had on how Kaz would classify their well-being. So here's some examples. As I say, it could have been a whole range of different things, but over the course of a typical day where you are doing typical schoolwork during the day, obviously there's no such thing as a typical day at the moment, but the kind of general mundane things, Kaz might have eaten a decent breakfast. Skipping breakfast is one of the worst things you can do if you want to be able to smash through all of your schoolwork in the morning so that you can spend the afternoon doing whatever you want to do. Have a good breakfast. It helps your brain get into gear, gives you energy, helps you focus. So having a healthy breakfast is something that's going to improve Kaz's well-being. But obviously that's not that kind of sugar high or the feeling good from having a good breakfast isn't going to last all day. And there are going to be times in your day where you're struggling with maybe some work that you've been set, or you're just kind of lacking a bit in motivation. So Cass has a bit of a dip at about 10:30 when they have a difficult lesson, difficult bit of work to do. But things you can do about that: spending 15 minutes, 20 minutes doing something that you like to do in your break. If you try and sit down and work solidly from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're gonna find that your motivation definitely dips. So over lunchtime, Kaz decided that actually she was going to do something that she wanted to do, which was, I don't know, maybe go on YouTube, watch a couple of videos of things that they like to watch. And that's going to make you feel a bit better for a while, isn't it? It's going to make you feel like, yeah, I've actually done something I want to do. So right now I can go back and do a bit more work. And we do a bit more work. And then between about 3 and 4, there's another dip, isn't there? And I don't know about you, but that's when I tend to find that my motivation and my concentration definitely takes a dip. So what Kaz has done after this time is decide, actually, it's a beautiful day. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to just go and throw my basketball around for a little while, because that's going to give me a little bit of energy. It's going to help me clear my brain of all of the work and kind of bogging it down for the day. And that has a massive impact on Kaz's well-being. Kaz feels good after that. Kaz feels like they've done something productive. They might even be able to go and do that with a friend or with a sibling or something. And then we've got some good well-being there. But obviously, as the evening draws on, it gets later and later, your energy runs out, you're getting tired, you tend to get a bit cranky when you're tired. Well, I know I do. So Kaz's mood is going to slowly decrease a bit until bedtime. That is completely natural to happen across the day. If you have a day where you feel completely happy from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, it's not really a typical day. You're going to have times in the day, and definitely whole days sometimes, where you just feel like, I kind of describe it as like a popped balloon. It's like not especially sad or anything like that, just like lacking in motivation, just a bit like spent. And that is completely normal, and talking about that's completely normal as well. But there could be so many different things that have caused you to feel a little bit less motivated, a little bit grumpy. But on the other hand, there's so many things you can do about that as well. So one of the most important things that at your age you should be able to do, and something you should know about yourself, is what to do when you're in one of these kind of moods, when you're in the popped balloon phase, how to bounce back from it and actually realise that, yeah, you feel a bit rubbish now, but you're not going to keep feeling like that. It's just a bit of a blip. Something's either happened, or you're just a little bit groggy, a bit tired, a bit kind of stuck in a rut. And one of the most important things you need to learn about yourself by this age is to make sure that you know what you can do to improve your mood, to improve your well-being. And so that's what we're going to have a look at. So what I want you to do is take a look at this clip of Michael Jordan, and it's from an advert. So Michael Jordan was a really famous basketball player, and there's a documentary series on Netflix about him, which is quite interesting. But he quite famously was he was put under a lot of pressure as a basketball player. He was the match winner. He was the man that could change the fate of an entire team. But he faced a lot of criticism and a lot of failure. But something that he's quite openly kind of spoken about is how he came back from that, how he bounced back from that failure. So what I want you to do is watch the video, which I couldn't embed into this video. So what I've done is I've linked it on to show my homework. Watch that video clip. It's literally like a minute long. And then I want you to have a think about this quote at the bottom. So I failed over and over again in my life, and this is why I succeed. So I want you to watch the video clip, have a think about this once you've paused the video, and then we'll have a talk about what he means by this. So I failed over and over again, and this is why I succeed, basically meant that he learned from his failures, that he accepted that you are not always going to be able to be a success at everything you do. And to him, a failure is not the end, but is a step in his journey. So the old phrase is it takes 10,000 hours of doing something to become an expert at it. It takes 10,000 hours in his case of practicing shooting hoops, 10,000 hours of playing a musical instrument before you become an expert at it. And in that time, you are going to face a lot of failure. And the sooner that you can learn that failure is not a thing to be scared of, the easier you will find it to fail and to bounce back from that failure. If you spoke to any of your teachers or your parents or any of your friends, they could probably name off the top of their heads 10 things that they'd failed at. And of those things they'd failed at, they maybe only carried on with one or two of those things. But if you carry on with those one or two things, and you get success after a failure, that's the most important thing that you can do in your life. Learning from the failure rather than deciding, I couldn't do it, I wasn't very good at it the first time, I'm not going to try again. And that is resilience. Resilience is knowing that just because you can't do something yet doesn't mean that you're never going to be able to do it. And resilience is so important, not just at school, not just at learning how to do algebra, but in life. People who become famous and become successful, in the vast majority of cases, they do it because they were resilient. They stuck with something, even when it was difficult, even when they were earning no money from it, even when they were getting people telling them they were rubbish and not good enough. They stuck with it. And that's how they became a legend or became an expert at whatever they do. They learn from their mistakes to become a success. Little blip there. So this technically is the definition of resilience. So resilience describes the result of a process through which someone recovers from difficulties, adapts and overcomes risks and challenges, perseveres and bounces back from setbacks. All of those things that Michael Jordan talks about in his video. You recover from difficulties. It's not to say that you aren't annoyed by them or infuriated that you can't get something the first time or the second time or the 10th time, but you adapt what you're doing, you work out what isn't working for you, and you keep going with it. So the last thing I'd like you to do for this lesson then is to come up with a little mind map or a list of ways that people can help themselves to become more resilient in your daily life, in whatever it is that you're doing, a hobby that you might be picking up, a sport that you play, even getting your schoolwork done. And remember that resilience is going to become more and more important to you as you become an adult, as you apply for jobs, as you apply for universities. You're going to have setbacks. Setbacks will always happen in life. Very, very few people in life just get everything that they need or everything they've ever wanted handed to them. You have times when someone says, no, you can't have that, or no, you can't do that, or no, you're not good enough. So the more you can learn about taking success out of failures, the more important it is. So I want you to pause this video. Give yourself about 5 minutes to come up with a mind map of ways that people can help yourselves to become more resilient, and I'll reveal some ideas in just a moment. So if you're struggling for things to put in your mind map, here's a few ideas that you might want to add to it. So having a particular goal, something that is manageable, but it is a goal. It's not something you can already do, something to aim for. So if it's a particular sport that you're playing, it could be scoring a certain amount of goals in a season. It could be being able to make 80% of the free throws that you take. Keeping a positive outlook. This one's a lot easier said than done. A lot easier. But remembering that failure is a temporary thing, where success is something you can live on forever, basically. Helping other people to achieve their goals, and that therefore helps you feel useful, valued, more positive about your life. Staying connected with people and having that element of accountability as well. If you've got a goal where you want to make 80% of your free throws, telling someone else about that goal and having them knowing then means that they can ask you how it's going, and you've got that idea that if you don't do it, there's somebody that will kind of call you out on it, or ask you, well, why have you given up on that goal? Taking care of yourself physically, we've talked about this a lot in PSHE over the last few years, but looking after your physical health has such a strong link to looking after your mental health. Getting exercise, some sunshine, some vitamin D, eating the right stuff most of the time. Avoiding seeing disappointments and setbacks as failures or as problems that cannot be overcome. They're stepping stones. Remember what Michael Jordan said, they were stepping stones. The failure is not the end point unless you let it be the end point, unless you give up. Focusing on what has gone well, your strengths and your accomplishments. Trying new things. If something isn't working for you, try a new technique. Try listening to somebody else's advice. Accepting that change is a normal part of life. Things are going to change, and sometimes that change is completely out of your control, like the current situation. And keeping things in perspective. Just because you can't do something now doesn't mean that you are a failure at everything. Change doesn't happen overnight. Improvements don't happen overnight. 10,000 hours of practice is what it takes. As well as that, there are a few other things that you could be doing to look after your emotional well-being. Some of these might work for you, others might not so much. But writing about how you're feeling, what you've been doing, keeping a journal or a diary, meditation, and looking after your physical health, getting sleep, having a sleep routine. So that means going to bed at roughly the same time every night, getting some exercise. That's going to be a lot easier now that you can actually go outside and exercise with other people or hang out with other people whilst you're maintaining your distance, and maintaining a healthy, balanced diet. Again, all these things are a lot easier said than done. I totally accept that. And I don't manage to do all of these things all of the time. But just being aware of them, making that conscious effort to do them, will improve your physical well-being, and therefore it's going to help you see challenges and setbacks a bit more clearly for what they are, which is stepping stones on the path to success. So with all of this in mind, you do not need to submit any of your work for this week, but we will be asking you to submit work for future lessons. This video is going to be on the YouTube channel for as long as you want it for, so you can rewatch it, pause it, rewind it, whatever you'd like to do, and I will see you all next week.